But you know, there's people who've been involved in Sea Shepherd who've gone on and done other things in the Animal Liberation Front or whatever. And I said, well, that's not my fault. I can't control what people do. They said, you trained them. You're responsible. And I said, I've got a couple of names for you. Lee Harvey Oswald, Timothy McVeigh, Osama bin Laden. You trained them. You're responsible. But that is what Sea Shepherd is, however. We're an organization of individuals. Because I have found one thing over the years, that the passion that you can find in individual volunteers, you can't pay people to do those things. When people criticize us on whale wars and they say, you know, your crew are a little incompetent, they're pretty inexperienced, you know, they're not professionals. I said, yeah, I don't want professionals. Professionals aren't going to save the whales. I couldn't pay people to do that. But I got a lot of sort of moral support from reading the letters to the London Times in 1914. Ernest Shackleton was criticized for having inexperienced, unprofessional crew. And he said at the time, I want to get to the pole, and I'm not going to do it with professionals. I need the passion of these people to bring me there. And that's exactly what we have today. The people that come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, men and women from all over the world, they have that passion. And they put themselves in positions which no paid person will ever do. And so we're going to continue to have our inexperienced, incompetent, unprofessional crew, because I want to point out one other thing about this, is that ever since I set this organization up, we've never had anybody seriously injured. We've never had a fire on board. We've never had an oil spill. We've never had a ship go aground. The Japanese whaling fleet in the last 10 years, has had 2 catastrophic fires, 3 fatalities, numerous injuries, an oil spill, and numerous industrial accidents. They're professionals. But nobody criticizes them because they're professionals. So I think that the proof is in the action, not in the so-called credentials. I get criticized when people say, well, you know, Paul Watson doesn't have a captain's license. No, I don't. Because if I had one, they'd take it away from me. I have something more important, the experience. I always find it a little amusing when some sealer on a 65-foot longliner who's never been out of sight of land says, you're not a real captain. Well, you know, 300 voyages transatlantic through all sorts of ice conditions and everything. I think I've proven my competence as a captain. I don't need some silly little piece of paper from the Coast Guard saying I am or am not what you want me to be. And that just drives them crazy, because professionals get so hung up on papers. If you don't have papers, you're nobody. I actually got charged in Canada for that, and my defense was that, you know, I had the experience and everything. And our vessels are also registered as yachts, which means we don't have to have commercial papers. But I was actually convicted of not having the proper papers to operate my vessel. But it went to the Supreme Court of Canada. And the Judge Green of the Supreme Court of Newfoundland, actually, he said, well, let me see, what is a yacht? A yacht is a pleasure vessel. And this previous judges said that we weren't doing this for pleasure, we were actually disrupting fishing activities, and that was not the business of a yacht. But Judge Green said, Paul Watson seems to take a great deal of pleasure out of disrupting these activities. Therefore, it seems to me that's the business of a yacht. So we were actually exonerated on that. The only other time we ever had a problem is when we brought our ship into South Africa, and Japan leaned on the South Africans, and they came down and were harassing us, and I showed the paper, and they said, this is not a yacht. I said, well, here it is, our registry right here, yacht. No, a yacht is a white vessel that you sit on and have drinks with your friends. And I couldn't resist it. It got into the newspapers down there, but I couldn't resist it, because I said, a white vessel? I think this is post-apartheid South Africa. There should be room for a black yacht. Actually, the Zulus thought that was pretty good. So anyway, this is where we're going to continue. I will be down there in December, January, and February. We just signed with Whale Wars, with Animal Planet, to do the 4th season of Whale Wars. And fortunately, we're going to get more money this time than we did before. We get a little location fee, which is hardly anything. But they said, well, we can't afford to give you any money. I said, you just paid Sarah Palin $2 million to do her silly little Wild Alaska documentary, so you're going to pay up. And they did, so we're going to get more money back. so we're going to be able to get our budget for our satellites and our fuel and everything. But what we're raising money for right now is the replacement for the Ady Gil. We found a vessel. It'll do 35 knots. It's bigger and far more efficient than the Ady Gil, and we have to raise $1 million to get it. So that's what we're working at right now. That will be our interceptor vessel. And with these Bob Barker, the Steve Irwin, and with this new vessel, I think we'll be able to get down there on time right at the beginning of the season and hopefully shut them down 80, even hopefully 100%. But we're at least going to try 80% minimum, 100% maximum. And I think if we can do that, we can really we can end whaling. But we're not going to retreat ever until we drive the Japanese whaling fleet out of the southern oceans forever. And we have some of our crew members. Lawrence is here, and he gets more fan mail than anybody. Kylie here she was a crew member in our very first campaign down to Antarctica. She was communications officer. Isabel, you were on the campaign down in our shark campaign off of Costa Rica. Susan Hartland's our communications officer on the Steve Irwin. And my daughter Lanny right here was on numerous campaigns. She's actually been the young, we have a thing you can't be on until you're 18, but she was on when she was 10. And is there anybody? Oh, Scott was on there. Chuck's hiding back there. He's captain of that. Right here is former crew member also. Did I miss anybody? Nope. And then there's people here from our staff, and they're all over the place, and I can't really name them. And of course, there are you, our supporters. And we wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff at sea without your support. Absolutely not. Navies have taxpayers to support them. We have voluntary taxpayers, which are our supporters. And this is a Navy. It's Neptune's Navy. And one of the things I always tell people when people say, I disagree with what you're doing, I don't like what you're doing, I said, I don't really care. Our clients are whales. Our clients are sharks. Our clients are seals and fish. Find me one whale that disagrees with what we do, and we'll reconsider. But until then, we're that's the only way we can really look at that. Last year I got severely criticized by. I did an essay which ended up on the Fox network. They were slamming me for this because in my essay I happened to say that worms were more important than people. I said that deliberately. I figured it provoked people. And then, of course, that got me in all the right-wing talk shows for the next 2 weeks where people were just outraged. And they said, how could you say something like that? How could you say that worms are more important than people? I said, well, because it's true. Worms are more important than people, ecologically speaking. The reason being, worms can live on the earth without people. People cannot live on the earth without worms. We need them. They don't need us. We need the fish. They don't need us. We need ants and beetles and bacteria. They don't need us. See, we're on a spaceship right now. Spaceship Earth. And the life support system is the biosphere. And the crew are the bacteria, the insects, the fish, the worms. They're the crew. They run this ship. We're the passengers. We're just having a good time. We're like on the Titanic, dancing and singing and getting drunk. That's all we do as superior mammals. Have a good time. We're the passengers. Without them, we wouldn't survive. So we need them. They're the custodians. They give us the air we breathe. They clean up our mess. Which is becoming increasingly more difficult for them. They provide us with the food we eat. Everything that enables us to live is provided by the crew. And they are the most important species on this planet because we need them. And they don't need us. In fact, a lot of them would be quite happy if we just simply disappear. But we have this incredible ability to believe that we're superior to everything.